My guest this week is Ali Rizvi. Ali writes for the Huffington Post, and his first book, The Atheist Muslim, Losing My Religion But Not My Identity, is being published in 2016. He's a strong advocate for the advancement of secularism and science, particularly in the Muslim world. Ali, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dave. Glad to be on.
So we've been doing this, as I start almost all my shows by saying to the guests, we've been doing this on Twitter for a while, and you are another one of these anti-regressive warriors, so I'm happy that you're joining me this week.
Yeah, you can't help but be. I mean, it's just doing anything like this, it's almost synonymous.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So, all right, we're gonna talk a little bit about the regressives, of course, but let's talk about you first. I want people to understand sort of who you are, where you come from. You spent most of your youth up until your early teens in Saudi Arabia, is that right?
Right, I did. So I pretty much grew up there. I was born in Pakistan, and then after that we moved to Tripoli in Libya. I lived there for several years. And then I went to Saudi Arabia, where I was actually until high school. And then after that I went back to Pakistan again for university, and then I came to Canada.
Yeah, so why were you bouncing around so much?
My parents are professors, and they liked going to different places, and they got really good job offers. They're both very, very competent, and so they traveled all over the place.
Yeah.
So I mean, those are just the countries we lived in, and we used to visit all over the place. So just generally, when it comes to North Africa and the Middle East and South Asia, I've seen a lot of places growing up.
Well, interestingly, all three of those, particularly Pakistan and Libya, are probably extremely different now than they were when you were there.
Right. Libya, I don't have too many. I mean, when we lived there, when I lived there, I was a kid, so I do have strong memories of it, but they're probably not representative at all of the way it is right now.
Yeah.
And Pakistan's also very different than it used to be, and I haven't been there for a while now. I can't go there, unfortunately. So.
Right. So we'll talk about why you can't go there in a little bit, but let's talk about Saudi Arabia for a bit, because it's such an important player in world politics and its relationship to the United States. And I feel like people actually know very little about Saudi Arabia, the nature of our relationship. What was it like growing up there? Your parents as professors obviously came from I'm assuming that was middle class, sort of educated middle class. How did that relate to religion and secularism and all that?
It was complicated. So the way I describe it is that my own nuclear family, like my parents and my siblings, are sort of a liberal, progressive type of Shia Muslim family. And so we had that. And then outside that, I was in a private American school, the American International School in Riyadh at the time. So the school was, obviously it was American. So we had American textbooks. We used to listen to American music. And, it was an American school that had people from about 80 different nationalities there. So it was a truly international school. And then outside of that, when we stepped out of that, it was, cover your hair, women can't drive, 5 times prayer. And if you're outside during the prayer, you'll get caught by one of the matawas, they call them, which is the religious police. So it was strange seeing, all of these 3 things. But when you're growing up with something as a kid, that is normal for you. That's what you think everything's like. So I actually think that it was a good thing to be exposed to all of those worlds at the same time. So I was, for instance, when 9/11 happened, I could, this was Saudis coming in from there, and I remember the mentality that there was there. One thing I described in my book is when I was in 5th grade at the American school, we'd made paper snowflakes out of, you fold up a piece of paper, you cut snowflakes and so on. And, we decorated them with glue and glitter and our names, and we were happy. I was about 10 years old. And it was, even though it was an American school, the Saudi Ministry of Education used to send an inspector once in a while to make sure everything's okay, everything's going according to the rules. Mm-hmm. And he came in and he actually cut one of the tips off of each of the snowflakes. He was very angry. He cut them off. And we asked our teacher what was going on. It's like, what is this? And then she told us about the Star of David and why we can't have anything that has 6 points that sort of symbolizes that. And that was this is a whole class of 10-year-olds. That was our introduction, at least my introduction to the Jews.
Wow.
Right. So, this was just a spot check from an inspector, but there are kids in Saudi Arabia who go to the Saudi schools. They have the stuff in their textbooks. The guy who did that spot check for us he actually writes the curriculum for the rest of them. So when 9/11 happened, I saw that kind of culture, those people coming in from there. And then the people in my school, like the Americans, they're the ones being attacked over here. It was really strange seeing it because I'd kind of grown up with both sides in parallel. You know, all my teachers were American. A lot of my friends were from the U.S. and Canada. And on the other hand, the country I was living in was a place where all the hijackers came from.